ignorance. And that's where overall for me, my life is about abolishing ignorance. What does it mean to enable and empower and equip others to live their best lives? And so we're going to go on a journey just briefly here. And I know we don't have much time. Nonetheless, it will get us started thinking, how do we do this for the big picture? Keeping the big picture in mind, especially the here and now, and then thinking ahead. So it may serve as an on-ramp for many of us to reconsider, how have we been living our lives? And for me, one of the big things is living out our life dash. Each of us have been given a birth date, amen? And that birth date, inevitably, we will face death from this earth. There will be a date that dictates when we will leave this earth. But as you can see there on your screen, there is that dash in the middle, that's simple, yet perhaps very insignificant red dash. And as a practitioner of international development and transformational development in livelihood, for me, I always want to focus on that dash. It speaks a volume of a whole life living within that dash. And what does our lives speak of us, our loved ones? What will they say of us at the end of our life? So we're going to go back a little bit, and that is the story that I've been blessed with to live. Many years ago, I was born in Pathet, Laos. You see there as Laos, 1976. That's when the French came in and they added the S. We were colonized by the French. And I'm trying to decolonize my country. And as you are aware, there's our country, our beloved United States of America is going through a journey where we are looking into what are some things that we need to change. Change has to come. And I know that as Dr. Sanders had previously spoken, there is much of broken heart and much heaviness amongst us, but we don't want to stay here. And so in my journey with my life, our family, because my father was working with United States Agency for International Development, we had to choose life or death. Hence, we escaped from the secret war. And if you want more details on this, I know Dr. Sanders had put a link with my name from the invitation that you could read more about that. Because for the sake of time, I'm going to move onward. But basically, here's my mother at the age of 32. She has already given birth to 7 children. And she has taken, we crossed the river, the Mekong River that separates Pathet, Laos and Thailand 2 by 2 in the middle of the night under burlap. And as a first generation immigrant, you know, here we are at the refugee camp. We landed there in 1980 in Thailand. The next slide indicates after 2 years, all of our documents were in place and we are preparing to come to America. And with that, here's from the tropical Southeast Asia, mango trees, coconut trees, 100 Fahrenheit degrees to Idaho, snow in Idaho in 1982. But we are all right because we were together and we were safe. And as I think of the women of the world, how many women carry, for my mother, the 10 children was her world throughout the refugee camp, through the escaping, through the walking through the bamboo jungles and the rice fields. Nonetheless, I can't even imagine how she felt as a mother, as a woman, with all of her family safe and all together arriving in Idaho. And so I'm giving you a little bit of this so that you can understand that each of us have a story. Each of us have the blessings of where much has been given, much is required, so that you know the background and the context of why and how it is a bit non-negotiable for me to serve others. And That's when the time came for the opportunity for me to return back as a refugee diaspora movement to Laos. It was non-negotiable for me. I had a dream that I would be serving back in Laos when I went back to visit in 1997. Who am I to go back, to go and serve Peace Corps South Africa with the Zulu tribe if I have yet to return to my home birthland in Pathet Lao? And that's when I received that dream. And some of us receive dreams and visions, or perhaps it comes in different realms. But I think it's wonderful for us to pay attention to all of that. And so here we are at this place in the United States. What is this date? The 15th of June, 2020. What a whirlwind it's been. And the last place I wanted to be at this time is actually in the US. All the more with what has been happening here. I can't even imagine. And there's a quote where it says, may my heart be broken by the things that break the heart of God. That's what I and many others are feeling. And so, but I would like to, yes, we listen. Yes, we learn, we lament, and we love. And I would love for us to move onward to that as educators and teachers. And so this is a bit of a background story, and we're going to get into it. But I do want to take us through a bit of a soul check at this time. So I would love to invite each of you. Why don't we just take a deep breath in? Can everyone do that with me, please? And let it out. Whew. That feels good, huh? One more time. This location here, the Breathe location, is actually in Cambodia when I served with World Relief in Cambodia. And World Relief was the organization that helped sponsor my family. This was my most favorite place on earth to go and let my soul catch up. I don't know what venue you have that's available to you, but find your happy place. I mean, look at this picture. It's kind of ridiculous, huh? How could you not find a happy place? Can I get a thumbs up for those who can relate to the beach and the ocean as a happy place? Okay, I see those thumbs. Wonderful. So we're going to go through a little bit of a soul check because I want to know how you are doing. And so thank you, Dr. Sanders. Can you... Wonderful. And this is going to be a bit of a poll check here. Maybe take this opportunity to indicate where you're at today. How is your soul today? Not well. Okay. Well. Or excellent. Okay. Wonderful. Oh, the second question, and please feel free to focus on the first or the second question. Before COVID-19, what was your normal work and life speed? Okay, I see you. Many of us are fast, okay? Most of us are okay. We're still getting votes in, 78%. Okay. 82%. Wonderful. Still, most of us are okay. Some of us are well. There's one excellent, wonderful. The not well, about 6 of us at this time. Wow, 10 of us were harmfully fast. Okay, dangerously fast. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your response. That's good to know where we're at. One of the words that I am going deeper in is authenticity. And how much are we authentic to ourselves and to others in this process? And especially as educators and leaders in our community, are we actually authentic to ourselves? And when you're a little bit grown, we don't have a lot of time to mess around. And I'm recognizing more and more, what does that mean for us to truly be authentic to ourselves when there's no risk involved or less risk involved? Okay, so 45 has voted. And so, okay, thank you so much for your responses. About 7 of us are not well. Thank you for that sincerity. 25 are okay, and 12 are well. 1 is excellent, wonderful. Glad to hear all of that. Appreciate each of those responses. The number 2 is before COVID. None of us said slow, slow. That's very telling. There's about 6 of us that has been cruising, and 29 of us has been fast, the majority, and 10 of us have been harmfully fast. Okay, thank you so much for your postings on that. So we're gonna move into a time where I'm gonna take you to Laos, the country that I serve in. I spent about usually 11 months out of the year in Laos, and I get 1 month of furlough. And as many are the plans of a man or a woman, okay, the Lord orders his or her steps, right? And so for me, I was scheduled to be back in the US in July. But little did we know, at the end of March, because of my health issues from being in communities that has 0 latrines, still practice open defecation in their communities, I was infected with a virus or a bacteria that is still lingering to this day. Just even last week, I received results from an MRI, and I'm hoping and praying that I can get as well as I can so that I could return back to my homeland and to serve. Nonetheless, we recognize that there is a time and a place for all things. And so I would like to share with you a little bit of the beloved country. Granted, I have many beloved countries. South Africa is one of them. Mexico is one of them. Thailand is one of them. US is one of them. But I'm a little bit biased here. Pathet Lao is absolutely one of them. And I would like to share with you a little bit of imagery and video of my life in Laos. And so hopefully I'm able to do this. So we're gonna share with you the 2 women. Okay. Are you able to see the screen? Can you put a thumbs up? Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, all right, peace out, people. Bye. We're going to start it in the beginning. Here we go. So you see here 2 women. They're trying to dry the rice, and the dog, the puppy, wants to play in it. No. No. So in Laos, okay, women are carrying their families, and the rice is basically our currency. That's why when we have imagery that says rice bank, it literally is the rice bank of the communities. And many communities, if you ask them, how wealthy are you? They actually are able to tell you how many bags of rice will they be able to feed their families. And in the communities that I work in, and we get to work in the 2 provinces, also known as our states here in the US, we are able to indicate, is it 1 to 3 months or 3 to 6 months worth of rice? And so with that, many of our communities are up in the northern areas of the rural area. And as you can see, these women, they've been carrying their families, their children, their children's children as grandparents. And then as you can see, the infrastructure there, it's very, very simple and very basic. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to see how much of a learner I am in the process of non-Western simplicity and spirituality. And I think we, as especially women of color, we're navigating in the spectrum of what does it mean to be doers, to be task-oriented professionals in the work that we get to do. And how do we participate and perform and produce in our work, as well as with our personal life, in our home life? What does that mean? And for some of us, we've been caring for others, whether it be children or families or even our elderly parents through this time. It has taken a toll. And then on top of it, we're dealing with 2 pandemics of both COVID and what's going on in the US. That is not easy, and that should not be taken lightly. And so with that, I wanted to share this imagery with you and the sounds of it, as women around the world, they are also dealing with COVID. They're trying to figure out what does it mean to let outsiders in their villages, who may be the people who are bringing COVID to their communities. And so they are navigating through that. And I don't know if you see here, but here are some blocks along the cylinders, the cinder blocks here of their home. Women around the world are supporting their families, and in such a way where they're holding up their structures, literally, physically, emotionally. And I think that is quite exhausting. And so our next slide would be that we then recognize, what does it mean for us to be women in leadership? And how do we bring forth our wisdom and our knowledge so that others can also gain from that? And so we then want to move onward for just a little bit of the work that I get to do in Laos. And so you're thinking probably, where is Laos? Laos, as I've mentioned before, it is in Southeast Asia, and it's just a small landlocked country. And with that, I get to be a learner in the process. We do capacity, community, leadership development. We also focus on education development, formal as well as informal. And with that, we're able to bring change in the communities that perhaps don't have access. A lot of it is clean water. A lot of it is, especially the girls, the young girls, they don't have access to schooling after 5th or 6th grade. And then we also focus on agriculture development, and we focus on health development. We also focus on livelihood in terms of what does it mean for income generation. And then a big part of it is part of my journey with Laos and in other parts in the 39 countries that I've been able to serve in has been the journey of working together and traveling together. And I learned this in 2007 when I was working at an institution that overworked me. I was overcommitted. I was burning from all ends. And with that, it was where I needed to take myself out of the environment, out of my home as well as the institution, and stopped. And I didn't know what that meant. And I learned about an Aboriginal story where in Australia, there was a doctorate dissertation who was doing their finishing up their dissertation. And he went out with the hunters. And with the hunters, they would go and they would stop. And he was thinking, what does that mean? And so with that, when he went back to the village chief asked, is there any questions? How did it go? And he goes, of course we caught game and what have you. But the question is, the men kept on stopping. And the village chief said, they stopped so that their souls could catch up. And with that, I was deeply convicted at that time in 2007. How am I going to work internationally, meeting the livelihood, the physical and the spiritual needs of the communities that I serve, and yet haven't taken care of myself? And so I hope that, whether it's the Aboriginal story, Native Americans practice this as well, Lao practice this as well, and I know many of our non-Western cultures and societies practice this. And I hope and pray that this would be a blessing for you to stop so that your soul could catch up, whatever that may look like. And so I do want to leave you with this. One of my life mantras is go to the people, live with them, learn from them, love them. And I'm sure you're aware of this particular quote. And we do this, we stop, but at what cost when we don't stop? At what cost? Is it worth it when we don't stop or give allowance for ourselves to stop? And sometimes the saying no or setting healthy boundaries for emotional, physical, social boundaries for ourselves. Inevitably, we want to be able to stop so that our souls could catch up so that we could go onward. And that's where the peace out that I'll be at for now with the motorcycle picture. Thank you, Dr. Sanders.
Thank you, Chiraphone. That was beautiful. If we can all kind of give her a round of applause. I think that's one of the hardest things when you're trying to communicate as a large group to the speaker and how much you appreciate that. We have a couple minutes to kind of just process that. And Chiraphone, I'll go ahead and just start. Thank you so much for what you shared and for your amazing story that I oftentimes go back to when I think about, you know, the sacrifices that our families have done so I could be where I'm at today, not only to live into gratitude, but also recognize that if it wasn't for what was done before me, that I wouldn't be here today. But sometimes that feels overwhelming, especially these days where the level of cultural taxation and the expectation for those of us that can be a responsibility, but also this overwhelmingness of, you know, how am I supposed to focus on self-care? So Chiraphone, do you have any thoughts on, you know, how do you balance when you have this mission and commitment to service, but you also realize that, you know, you can only do so much?
Absolutely. For me, a lot of it's on teamwork and a lot of it is on pacing ourselves. I've done 2 marathons in my life. My knees can't do it no more, you know? But from those learning process and the discipline in training for a marathon is recognizing that life is a marathon. And I'm learning more and more in my 40s, how do I pace myself in every discipline of my life to be able to see life as a marathon, but then also umuntu umuntu ngabantu, that's in Zulu, that says a person is a person in and through others. And for me, I've been able to embrace that back in my early 20s of what it means to be in a communal, be collective. And I think my Lao heritage has that. That's why I gravitate with others who sees life as communal and we do belong to one another. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we're gonna take some time to kind of process this in small groups. Really a great opportunity to meet some new friends, to share your thoughts, and to just have conversations with colleagues from across the country. And so we have a couple. We're going to take 10 minutes for breakout sessions. If you could use alphabetical order just to kind of decide who goes first. You're going to be randomly assigned a breakout room. Look for an invitation to come in a minute or so. Unmute yourself and to engage in the discussion. And a timer will keep time and so send you some reminders of how much time you have. But the first question is, what hinders you from stopping so your soul can catch up? And that could be anything, what's going on in your life, what's going on with work, what's going on right now because you are out of wine, whatever it may be. What hinders you from stopping so your soul can catch up? And then the second question is, what new life disciplines will enable you to stop so your soul can catch up? So Dominica is going to break us up into groups. We'll have 10 minutes and we look forward to connecting back here in 10 minutes. So Dominica, if you can break us up into groups, that would be great.
Hi.
see you again.
Oh, look at this group. Hey.
To how we could move forward and do things differently. Setting boundaries is going to be key. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, thanks, Farah. Amber Wilson, would you want to unmute yourself and share your thoughts on your breakout session or the program as a whole?
Sure. Hi, Sabrina. Thank you for everything. So one of the themes that we found in every single member of our breakout group's comments was perfectionism. And, you know, given what's going on, we're all very good at giving other people grace and allowing some flexibility. And so just a reminder to do that for ourselves as well and not hold yourself to the utmost standard, you know, make it happen and do your best, but don't kill yourself in the process.
Some great feedback, and it's amazing how easy that is, and we probably do a great job of sharing that with others, but don't always listen to our own advice that we're often feeding out there. So thanks for that reminder from your group, Amber. Anybody else like to share what they got out of the discussion with their group, or anything that kind of was an aha moment for them?
Andrea here.
Hey.
Something that came up, and I thought it was good, felt good to hear that I wasn't alone in this, is that the emotional burden and weight of the second pandemic on people of color. Each of us was saying how, you know, we're in meetings and our faculty members or our colleagues said, boy, something's off with you. Even if we couldn't articulate it, our bodies and our souls brought it forward. And I thought that was an important thing for us to pay attention, that our bodies will tell us, even if our minds are not fully articulating that. And again, getting back to what you were saying, Chiraphone, about the need to be in community and to do life with others, because they're often a mirror that we just can't see, we can't use. So, and I just love the women in my group. It was great. So thank you for doing that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Deborah, I saw that your hand was up. Deborah Hammond.
I was in the same group with Andrea, so I loved her too. So, and one of the things that we were talking about is, you know, doing exercise and devoting and being disciplined about that. But how about using that same amount of time to slow down and just be disciplined about that? So that to me was a real kind of eye opener. And it's like, if I could put that kind of time on a daily basis into, you know, how much happier I would be, how much more settled, even if it's not the same, you know, but every day that amount of discipline. So that was really eye opening and really helpful for me.
Yeah, awesome. Great feedback, great reminder. So many amazing things that were shared by folks that we all needed to hear. It's really, it has been tough. Not going to admit that, but I think the reminder of these little moments of connections that we have in community, whether it's your neighbors. We just had I had carne asada from back home, and I wanted to brag about it, so I had some neighbors over in the front yard and socially distance, of course, and it was just amazing, you know, having 7 people over in a yard space. It's like you have this whole new gratitude for community coming together. So there's a lot to be grateful for when I can stop, slow down, and just acknowledge those little things that have kind of been taken away for the last few months. So a lot of those reminders came out of this discussion and this connection. Chiraphone, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your experiences. And, you know, for me, it's been an educational experience of learning, having a greater understanding of the Laos and cultural understanding and understanding the refugee experience. And as in Long Beach, we worked with a lot of Cambodian community. And I think my relationship with you made me that much more prepared to work with some of our state students of having the experience. So I think the diversity of learning about different communities is so powerful, not only for me and knowing that everybody has a story, but in the way that I serve students as well. So thank you so much for being transparent and vulnerable at sharing this with our group this evening. So much appreciation to you. Thank you to all of you for coming out this evening. I really appreciate the connection and community that happens through this community. have been meeting every month and kind of having different topics and based upon what the feeling and the energy is kind of going with, the priority being self-care, being community, being networking, and not in the professional development sense. We don't need to feel like we're at work still. At least I don't. So hopefully you got that for the last 60 minutes of just this personal connection with folks from across the country. And so I wanted to share that we do have our sessions scheduled for next month, and I'm very, very excited about it. I started with talking about the cultural taxation that a lot of us have been experiencing. So Michelle Batista, who's the Director of Student Support and the Title IX Coordinator at Skyline College, will be our speaker and facilitator next month. It's scheduled for July 14th at 5 p.m. So a couple weeks before, I'll send out a registration invite to all of you that participated today, and we'll have a conversation on self-care when there's this expectation of taking care of others based upon some of the diversity of backgrounds that we have. And we've all known this. We've all known that we have a role because sometimes we're the only one. But it's, for me, it's kind of been something of a challenge recently. So I thought it would be a good conversation topic amongst the group as we focus on self-care and building community. Again, I want to thank Khamphouvong for hosting our session today, Impact Beyond Borders. Her link is in the registration. And if you'd like to support her organization, go to her website, learn more, and you can help send a donation to the work that she's leading in her country. And we want to send her blessings and healing thoughts so that she's able to address some of her health issues, because I know that she's dying, that's not the word right user. She's excited and anxious to return back to the work that she's doing in her home country. So we want to support her in returning back to her community to continue her work of advocacy, education, community development. And again, I want to thank our past presenters, Dr. Portia Jackson Preston, Dominica Sabata, President Garcia, Dr. Mary Wardell, Dr. Deborah Griffith, Dr. Perez, Dr. Denise Woods. Without all of their support, we wouldn't be able to have this community. So thanks again for joining us. We hope you had a wonderful 60 minutes together. Hopefully you made some great connections, and hopefully you didn't feel isolated. You felt like this sense of community, and you felt supported, and you feel like you're not alone. So we look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great evening.